Welcome to our very special virtual meetup tonight, today, morning, evening, whatever time of day it is for you. We are going to have a very special debate. So we all love Excel. We're all, I assume you guys are all working in finance, probably financial modelers, finance people. We all love Excel. We're going to debate tonight whether or not we should be learning Excel or whether we should be using other software. We know that there is so much other software out there. So is there any point in continuing to learn Excel? Should we be learning to build financial statements, or should we forget all of that and just let the software do all of it? So we are joined this evening by three professional financial modelers and three very different points of view. So I'm going to introduce each of them. We have got Myles Arnott, who is joining us from the UK, from Clarity Consulting. We have got Whitelaw Jones from Gridlines. He is also from the UK, and we have Lance Rubin, who is joining us from Melbourne from Citizn, and of course myself, I'm Danielle Stein-Fairhurst in Sydney from Plum Solutions, and I am going to be your moderator for this evening. So we are going to get started very soon with the opening statements. We don't have a huge amount of time, so we've got, I think we've got 5 rounds that we're going to get through. I'm going to get you guys, all of the participants, to vote and tell us, who do you think puts across their argument in the best way, and who do you vote for? So it's a 3-way debate. Perhaps it's a little unusual, but I think it's a really important thing to discuss this evening. So we're going to get started with the opening argument. So I'm going to hand over to Myles. You have 2 minutes, and I have got access to the mute button.
Excellent.
Over to you, Myles.
Brilliant, thank you, Danielle. So firstly, I'm really pleased to be here, and thanks for inviting me. So for me, the core piece at the start of this is when we talk about modelers, who are we actually talking about? So, when we think about modelers, we might think about the people who dedicate their whole role just to kind of the financial modeling piece. But for me, we work with a lot of SMEs. So we work with people from, one-person entrepreneur right at the start of their journey, all the way through to the financial controllers, finance directors, and then up to those dedicated teams in the corporate. So for me, as we go through this session, I want people to think about the broad brush of people that use models within their business and within their roles. So thinking kind of the main piece of the question around, is software going to take the role of financial modelers? Just thinking about what areas of what we do can it take control over. So it can help us with our build element, it can help us with the test piece, and it can help us with that visualization piece. But what it can't do is take on that piece that we add around all of that. So the piece right at the start of a financial modeling project. So that piece where we're sat with the business owner or sat with the client trying to understand the logic of their business. And it can't take the piece at the end as well, which is where we've applied all of that knowledge and we've got to some insights that the model is showing us. So I think software isn't going to take our roles, but it's definitely going to enhance them. I think what we've got to do is take that on board and take it. And 30 seconds to go, my piece on Excel. Is Excel relevant? Absolutely. I'm here to support Excel. This is my main piece. I've even got mugs on the side here that say I love spreadsheets. People use Excel. If you think of that broad brush of people that use financial models, Excel is the thing that most of those people will use. 90% of the people that I've just quoted will be using Excel. They won't be using the kind of tech that Lance will be talking about. They're going to be using Excel. Modelers are a diverse group of people. Software is going to change our roles, but we must keep the focus on learning Excel.
Fantastic, thank you, Myles. I probably didn't mention that Myles is going to be really taking the view that it's all about Excel. Kenny is going to be taking the view that it's all about financial modelling and financial statements. And Lance, of course, judging by his background, is going to be talking all about the tech. So over to you, Kenny.
Thank you so much, Danielle, and it's great to be here. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for turning out. And yeah, as Danielle said, I'm here to defend the case for modelling, and I want to kind of take a step back and think, in answering the question, is Excel going to replace us as modelers? Is it going to take the job of modelers? I think we have to start by looking at what makes a good modeler. Because even if we just think about modeling in Excel, good modeling, effective modeling is not just about what the software can do. It's about what the software and what the model can tell us. And so that takes already more than just Excel skills. It takes domain knowledge, it takes commercial experience, it takes finance and accounting knowledge. So actually, you know, being a good modeler is a lot more than just about your Excel skills. I like to use the analogy that being good at, knowing how to use Microsoft Word doesn't make you a good writer. Similarly, just knowing how to use Excel or any other modeling tool that we might be talking about today is not on its own going to make you a good modeler. I do believe that software is going to change what's possible for modelers, and it's already doing that. Modelers are going to be able to do much more. They're going to be able to add more value, but it's absolutely not going to replace the modeler. It's going to enhance the value that modelers can create. So these tools are not going to take the job of modelers. They're going to make modelers more valuable to any business. And certainly in transaction modeling, which is my background, is what I do, what we do at Gridlines, Excel is going to remain the platform that we use to communicate and share models. In my opinion, that's because the user base is too great, right? For it to be replaced, the whole market's going to have to change at the same time to some other tool. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. And we built OpenBox on that hypothesis. It doesn't replace Excel, it augments Excel. It makes it quicker and easier for modelers to do their job and cuts down their risk. The modeler remains at the center, and the skill set that makes a good modeler, that's not going to be replaced by software, but the new tools will make us more effective at our jobs.
Thanks, Kenny. We've just had a comment from Vinny saying this is a far more civilized debate than what we saw a couple of weeks ago in the US presidential debate. But Vinny, there is still time. I am hoping they keep it civil, but you never know. We have not heard from Lance yet, so I want to know what Lance thinks about technology. Is it all about the technology? Over to you, Lance.
Thanks, Danielle, and thanks everyone for joining, and thanks for my co-debatees who are up for some punishment. So the reality is that tech has already displaced many roles. I'm not just talking about financial modelers, just talking across the board. It's also going to create new ones. So I think we've got to be really careful if we don't evolve as ourselves in terms of what we do and where we see our value. And if our value is only in building the model, then I think we're at risk of being displaced or at least impacted by the technology. If we focus on what the tech has to offer today, it can do things and help us be better prepared for when it does change. It is going to happen. It's not a matter of time. It's just a matter of when. It's not a matter of if, it's going to happen. What's taken decades to master and months to learn, i.e. to build a three-way model, can be done in years and weeks. You could build a three-way model in weeks, minutes, in fact, using modular spreadsheet development. You can't teach a human to do that without that technology. So sticking to Excel is looking like every screw just because you've got a hammer. Everything looks like a screw just because you've got a hammer. You know, it's time to expand our toolkit beyond just the hammer, but maybe some laser cutting tools, right? So I think if we just stick to us using a hammer and knock everything on its head, well, then I think we're at risk. And I think we've really got to think about where we're going to go. I'm actually going to quote someone on LinkedIn recently who did an awesome quote, Anya Carruthers. She's a financial controller in the hospitality industry. She says, when Excel becomes the solution to every financial problem, you have a problem, right? It is really important to think beyond just Excel. Excel's great. I'm not going to argue with my fellow debatees, but it's much more than just Excel. It's much more than just financial modeling. It is technology has to be a very core focus. We cannot simply ignore technology. It's going to impact everything, and it's already had a big impact. You know, modular spreadsheet development will significantly change the way we build models today, and it has in some cases already. We build models exactly with it. Thanks.
Okay, so it's time to vote. Over to you. So you should see a little poll pop up on your screen. We have got 5 rounds. So that was just the opening arguments. The next round is going to be about Excel. The second one, third one is going to be about financial modeling, and then the last one is going to be about tech, and then we'll do closing arguments. So there's going to be 5. This first one was just opening arguments. So, all right, two more seconds, and then I'm going to close polling. Okay, haha. And the winner of that round was Kenny. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Lance, I'm just going to tell you, you're taking a roasting in the comments about your hitting a screw with a hammer, mate.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
Not to blow, but you're taking a roasting, mate.
Okay, to the next round. The next question that we are going to tackle is mastering Excel the most important thing? And should people even bother learning Excel or learning how to use it properly when there's so much else on offer? So Myles is going to start us off on this one.
Thank you, Danielle. So yeah, so no surprise for me that I'm going to say that that learning Excel is really important, but part of the question was actually, should we learn all of Excel? And it might surprise you that actually I'm going to say very much no. So I'm not an advocate at all of learning everything about Excel. So when I set Clarity up 12 years ago and created the training piece that we had around that, it was very much about tailoring the training to the piece of Excel that's relevant to you. So if you think as a financial modeler, how much of Excel do we really need to be using? It's actually quite a small part of it. We definitely don't need to learn all of it, but what we do need to learn is how to use the bit that we need properly. So it's really important we focus in on the piece that we need and then learn how to do that properly. And in terms of is Excel dead? So, you know, Lance kind of cracked out his hammer and screwdriver type debate, which is the one that always comes up. The amount of times over the last 20 years I've been working, I've heard that Excel is dead and is dying and is going to die. And you know, there's a real big thing in the media at the moment with the UK COVID results, and Excel's getting a good old bashing. But what we have to remember is right now, in the kind of people that are modeling, and think of that diverse group of people who are modeling, Excel is the current reality. So if we think of what people turn to, what they have on their machines right now, Excel is the reality of what that toolkit is. And if I can quickly take a quick analogy just to wrap up, my son's getting to the age of being able to drive, so he's just coming up to that point in his life. When he learns to drive in the UK, we typically have kind of manual cars, automatic cars. Those are the two that are an option. I know in 5-10 years, there's probably going to be driverless cars, so there's probably going to be these new future cars coming up. But when Callum learns to drive, what's he going to learn to drive in? He's going to learn to drive in the manual, because that's the current reality. And in the next 10-15 years, it's still the current reality. And from an Excel perspective, Excel is the reality of what people have available to them, and it still will be for the next 10-15 years. New technology is great, but we have to be able to use the tools that we have in front of us.
Thanks, Myles. Over to you, Kenny.
Thank you so much. So look, Excel, I mean, any person working in finance and any financial modeler, any financial analyst, knowing Excel is going to be a core part of your skill set, and knowing how to use Excel really well. Clearly, it's not enough. And as technologies continue to evolve, there will be new things to learn that augment Excel. But if we separate our thinking between, let's say, kind of the corporate modeling, FP&A type modeling, business planning, and transaction modeling, I think we can see different realities emerging there. There are more tools that are available around the kind of corporate planning and so on, and more that you can get done outside of Excel. In transaction modeling, Excel remains at the heart, and there's lots of reasons for that. But even if you take the kind of corporate FP&A, business planning type modeling, in my experience, people always end up back in Excel because whatever package they have doesn't quite get them there, doesn't get them the last mile in terms of the analysis that they need to do. They end up back in Excel. And if they don't have a really strong grasp of Excel, as well as the additional tools, they're going to really struggle. and we're going to see the kinds of mistakes that keep coming up. The COVID one in the UK is a recent example, that keep coming up because people don't have that level of familiarity. In transaction modeling, even with the other tools that will augment our skill set, Power BI, modular spreadsheet development tools, other things, Excel is going to remain at the heart of that. So Excel skills remains absolutely core to the finance function. And it's dangerous, we know it is, and it's risky, and therefore understanding the software, but also the approaches to using the software that make it safer and more efficient, those are the key skills in any finance professional's toolkit.
Thanks, Kenny. Over to you, Lance.
Thanks, everyone. It's a really interesting analogy, Myles, to teach your son a manual car. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to be learning to drive in today's roads anyway, when very few people on the roads in Victoria. And I think, Kenny, I think people just choose the wrong tool, to be honest. I think blaming all the other tools out there is probably not, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about technology that is for modelers, not technology that's for forecasters and planners, because those are modeling tools. For me, the technology sits in and around Excel. So the stuff that really helps us do better modeling is very important, because in the end, yes, I'm not saying Excel's dead. I'm not saying don't learn it. I'm saying it's not the most important. Yes, it's a good foundation, but it's an entry-level tool. And it's not good enough just to be using that as the only tool. In fact, for the average person, it's pretty dangerous. I mean, look at what's happened in the UK. Someone who doesn't know how to use the tool, and they've mismanaged the tracing and tracking of the virus. Extremely dangerous. So if Excel is the only thing that you're focused on and you're doing it badly, then that's a really bad waste of time. To the untrained person, it is disastrous. To a skilled modeler, it can be very useful, but add in some tech and you get to supercharge it. So whilst modelers can learn how to ride motorbikes, right, while spreadsheeters are riding bicycles, tech-enabled modelers are on jetpacks, right? So for me, it's a huge paradigm shift in terms of what we're doing. There's also bigger data sets, using modeling tools inside Power BI like ValQ and others. These are phenomenally different to what we're going to do. Basic knowledge of formulas, sure, understand that, but don't spend ages and decades just falling behind the pack. Technology is moving so quick, and if we continue to just stay with the same way of doing things, we're just not going to evolve, and that's a big problem.
Fantastic, thank you, Lance. I think you're scaring people. We've got some very funny comments going on in the chat there. I'm going to, whilst you guys are voting, I'm going to pop up the questions. So the question that we were just talking about is mastering Excel the most important thing, and should people even bother to learn it, considering there's so much else on offer? So yes, I think. Yeah, interesting. Okay. All right, just 2 more minutes and then I will share the results. Yeah, and Lance nailed that one, definitely. Yay, well done, Lance. Okay, the next topic we're going to talk about is, should technology and coding languages such as VBA, Python, DAX, MScript, etc., should it be an essential part of financial modelers' skills? So I'm going to just stop sharing so you can see our faces, and we're going to start off with Myles.
Well, I did a little bit better in the last one, but I'm still way behind the pack, so I think I need to up my game a little bit here, guys.
Should we bother to learn these other coding languages? What do you think, Myles?
So I'll start with the slight confession, actually, which was right at the start of my career, which, like I said earlier, was 20 years ago now. I came across VBA and got very excited about VBA, as a lot of people do. And I rolled VBA into every single model using every single thing that I could possibly think about. You open up a model, all this event-based macro stuff would kick off. That you couldn't go to a different tab without having to press a button, because going to a tab was far too much effort. Everything was automated. God, I completely went crazy. Fast forward 20 years, and none of our models pretty much have VBA in. A tiny percent. We use Power Query now to replace what we did with VBA a lot. when people come to us and ask us for VBA training because they've heard of it and they think it's this funky thing, we try and talk people out of it. So we're trying to tell people not to use a VBA. And the key message for me when I have those kind of conversations is, what's the right tool for the job that you're trying to do? And that's what's important here. I know we've had the debate around technology and what pieces we should use, but really it's about the challenge that you're facing. So when you're sat with the client and you've got a project that you're looking at, what's the appropriate piece of software or the appropriate tool to use to do that? And what I want people to focus on is the design around that. So when they're designing a piece, is it the simplest and clearest solution that they can possibly come up with for that client and for that project? So I've absolutely embraced that. As financial modelers, we go on a journey, and I started 20 years ago and I'm still learning, and hopefully I'll still learn for the next 20 years. But as we go through that journey, embracing that technology that's out there, add it to your toolkit, absolutely. But when you sit in front of that client, or when you start to design your build, focus on what is important for that build to make it as clear and as simple as it can possibly be.
Thanks, Myles. I'm just catching up on the chat. We've got some really, really great comments from people. Paul Aberdeen, the Excel of today won't be the Excel of the future. That's a really interesting comment. So over to you, Kenny, next.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. That's great. Look, you need as many tools as you can in your toolkit, and Lance made the point before, and so it's kind of reiterating here. But the more tools we have, the better. And if you're just using one tool, then that's dangerous. So yeah, we want to expand the number of tools that we have, and these coding languages are super useful. But there is a trade-off between transparency and readability and understandability, and therefore risk management, and the sophistication and cleverness that can come through the kind of approaches that are really kind of coding driven. I often see, and I've seen this in my past, and I've been guilty of this in the past as well, that modelers often like to show how clever they are. And there can be some perverse incentives here where, especially when modeling is outsourced, that if the modeler is the only one that understands how this thing works, then other people are relying on that modeler for future updates and for fixing and so on. So there's some incentives that can lead modelers to overcomplicate and perhaps be tempted to show how clever they are. And so that's a real danger. We want to be ensuring that what we create is transparent, because that's a key part of risk management. But there are some things that you need code and VBA and things like DAX for, and so I think it's an absolutely essential part of the modern modeling toolkit.
Thanks, Kenny. What do you think, Lance? Should we be learning coding?
I think Kenny just supported my argument there by saying that it's part of the modern financial modeling toolkit. So I'll take that one, Kenny, thanks. The fundamental thing here is context, right? And Oz is on here and he'll love this, right? Context is critical. And to Kenny's point, in some cases, and to Myles in many cases, some cases you don't need it, but you need to understand the context. You need to know, when do I need it and when do I not need it? So I actually do think, I'm not saying you need to be a coder, but at least having an understanding of what VBA, Python, DAX, and MScript can be used for and when not. Recognizing and knowing the context is actually more valuable than understanding how to actually code. Right? Just knowing how and when to apply it is important. So depending on the context, like Kenny was saying, sometimes you need VBA. DAX is incredibly powerful in Power BI. MScript as well. It allows you to be more flexible in your Power Query, how you get the data in. And Python, probably not for financial modelers and three-way modelers, but for other contexts and other modeling and lots of data, Python is actually quite useful. So when you're dealing with lots and lots of data, Python can be incredibly powerful. So it's all about context. Again, having one way to solve a problem is very dangerous and extremely career limiting. So I think, again, I'm just going to say it again, having a well-rounded context, having a varied number of tools and coding languages is critical in today's world to be able to navigate what's often quite complex.
Thanks, guys. So voting is in progress. Okay. Should technology encoding languages be an essential part of financial modelers' skills? Okay. And the votes are still coming in thick and fast. There's some pretty interesting discussions going on in the chat. Okay. And the winner of that round was Lance. Again, well done. Okay, to the next round. Is building a three-way integrated financial model the most important skill in financial modeling? So what do you think about that, Myles?
So listen, I'm a qualified accountant, so and a modeler, and I literally can't sit here and say that a three-way statement isn't important, because I'd get absolutely crucified. So absolutely, it's absolutely critical to modeling. We've got to have those three statements to be able to get a decent view of our business. But the thing for me is it's such an important and kind of critical point that it basically becomes like a hygiene factor, in that it's so obvious that it's got to be there. That is it really the most important part? It's just kind of a taken these days, and in the way that I see Excel as just a tool, and we've all three of us, I think, have said that the tool is just a tool. It's more about what we bring to it. In the same way, for me, a three statement is just a structure that we can hang our accounts around. So it's a formalized structure that we've all agreed to over the years. We hang our numbers on that structure. But what's more important is, how do we design the model that reflects that structure? What method are we using? So we at Clarity use the FAR standards. I know Kenny also uses it. For me, using a standard or a structured approach that gives us the ability to have a flexible, clear, simple, transparent solution is much more important, because that makes sure that those three statements are correct. And on top of that, we have the business logic. So one of the key modelers' skills is being able to talk to the client and understand their business, understand what the levers are in that business and what really drives it. So taking a well-structured model and really applying decent business logic is what's really important. So three statement, absolutely, but focus on the logic and focus on the design.
Thank you. And Kenny, what do you think?
Like building a three-statement financial model, I don't think you can really call yourself a modeler if you don't know how to do that. It's a core part of the skill set, and it's really not that hard to learn. I think many people make it look hard because they overcomplicate it, but it's actually pretty straightforward. And I want to come back to the point I made at the beginning, that models, they're all about answering why do we build models? It's so that we can do analysis and we can answer important business questions. This analytical mindset with the domain knowledge and finance knowledge, this is where modelers add value. If all you know is how to put together a spreadsheet model, but you don't understand what that model is telling you, and you're not able to analytically interpret results, then you're not going to add much value as a modeler, precisely because it's not that hard to do. And you know, there's the tools will make it easier, but the tools are really dangerous if you don't understand what the model is telling you. So the ability to construct a three-way financial model is absolutely crucial. But that skill set in itself, just the ability to bang together a model that works, that's going to become more and more commoditized. And modelers need to be able to add value through their analysis, through their domain knowledge. That's where the value is. But if you just use tools blindly and you don't understand the dynamics of a three-way model, which are best obtained by having one that's working and be able to use it, then you're actually creating risk. And so being able to build and understand a three-way model is super crucial, but it's that domain and that kind of analytical mindset and skill set around that that's really key.
I know I'm not supposed to get involved, but I definitely agree with you, Kenny. It really frightens me when people just, you know, rely on the software and they don't sort of understand the basic accounting skills are not being learned anymore, and that really scares me. Sorry, I will shut up.
That's really dangerous, right? And that's where the risk of these tools come from. And as somebody who's building a tool that does that, that's the concern. We just rely on the tool that bangs out the model. We trust what the model tells us, and we ship off the answers. that's a horrifying approach, and that's the risk of model build tools.
Yeah. Lance, over to you.
I just want to come back at both of you by saying that don't blame the tool for misuse, right? So if you have a gun, it's not the gun that shoots it, you're the person who pulls the trigger. So you can't blame the tool for misuse, just like you can't blame Excel for misuse. Blame not the tool, the person. So just going back on the question, yes, it's an important skill. I absolutely say it is an important skill to be a financial modeler, but I wouldn't say it's the most important skill, right? Modular spreadsheet development removes the need to, yes, you need to understand the basics, but you don't necessarily need to be able to build a three-way model from scratch every single time. You know, three-way model isn't always required. Sometimes it's just an analysis on the P&L. Sometimes it's a one-way cash flow model. Maybe it's just a cash flow. You just want to put something together. You can't actually if you don't close your balance sheet mid-month, then you can't even do a three-statement model. So if you want to do a weekly model, unless you're closing your balance sheet every week, you're not going to even need it. So there are times when a three-way model is actually not that important. It's important in terms of deals, absolutely, for Kenny's context, but there are other ways in which you need to apply modeling, credit modeling, statistical modeling, portfolio optimization. These things do not even involve even three statements. So it's, again, a critical understanding of context. Context is, again, very important. Understanding what do I need to learn? I don't think a three-statement model skill is as critical as what everyone makes out to be. Sorry.
No, that's cool. I am just launching the poll. Okay. And just to refresh your memory, the question was, is building a three-way integrated financial model the most important skill in financial modeling? And just a shout out to those people who are going to be sitting there, level 1 AFM, FMI financial modeling qualification coming up in 2 weeks' time, because they will have to build a full set of financial statements from scratch. And that is a very important skill to have. So, all right, we're getting the votes coming in. Just another couple of seconds. We'll leave the voting open for another few seconds, and then we will close it. And the winner was Kenny. Well done, Kenny.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, and yeah, now we're just going to do some closing arguments. So I'll put that over to you, Myles.
Well, one last chance to redeem myself. I'm never going to live this down. Here we go. So just take you back to my opening piece, really, which was just think of the context of modelers and think of that broader piece of modelers are across the whole of finance. So, the entrepreneur, the financial controller, finance director, FP&A, the guys that are dedicated to financial modeling, and think about the tools that are available to them. And just coming back to my point, that the current reality, as much as we love the tech, and I love some of the tech that's coming out as well, but the current reality is for 90% of the people that sit in front of a computer and are going to do some modeling, Excel is the reality. Excel is the tool that's in front of them. So what we need to do is make sure that people learn how to use that tool properly, focus on the bits that are relevant, learn the bits that are relevant, and learn how to apply it. So again, I think we've all agreed that it's the application and context that's really important here. So if Excel is the right tool, then learn how to use it and apply it properly. Learn the other tech as well. Absolutely, stuff that Lance gets excited about, and learn that stuff. Add it to your toolkit. Understand where it can be applied and what's relevant. The key thing we have to focus on is what is appropriate for the client and for the project that they're working on, so that we end up with a clear and simple solution. I'm always going to come back to that. It's got to be the appropriate solution for the people that are out there. And just to finish up, Excel is genuinely the thing that's out there at the moment. It's the one that everyone's got on their machines, and it's the current reality. So I'll finish there.
Thanks, Mark.
Vote for me as well. Final point, please vote for me. I'm desperate.
That's just desperation now, Myles.
It is, man. I've got to pull it all out now. I can't take any more.
Over to you, Kenny.
All right, look, thanks so much, and thanks to the fellow debaters as well. This has been really fun. look, I define Excel modeling as being more than just the tool, right? For modelers, the tool, the model is the tool that we use to do our job. It is not our job. Our job is so much more than that. As I said earlier, it's about an analytical mindset. It's about domain knowledge, commercial knowledge, finance and accounting, all wrapped up into one artifact that we create. There's going to be different ways to create that in the future, but a key understanding of how these models are put together, and right now the Excel skill set that is required to do that is absolutely essential. And I believe that will remain essential, because I think without that, the tools are dangerous. If we just give some model build tool to a rookie and say, go ahead and build a model, yeah, they can throw a model together in 20 seconds. That's great. And they will have no understanding of what that model is telling them. And for me, that's incredibly dangerous. If I look at transactions, then I think any efforts to replace Excel is doomed, because, as I said, it requires everybody in the market to move at once, and that's not going to happen. The network effect is too great. I think it's never been a more exciting time to be in financial modeling, because there is an explosion of new tools, but the core modeling skills, the core analytical, business, commercial skills that sit within the domain of financial modeling, those are absolutely critical to know.
Thanks, Kenny. And Sharon says, it is not the X factor, Myles. Hey, we have just got Lance to go, and do make sure that you hang around, because we do have a special announcement at the end. So just because we finished the debate does not mean we're gonna go for the usual hour. So over to you, Lance. Last chance.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, I guess I'm going to use this. This is a line that gets used quite a lot, but it is so true, right? Kodak, Blockbuster, and BlackBerry failed to evolve whilst the world around them changed. So I guess there's a point on the question about, is software going to get rid of 50% of the median of financial modelers? And my answer is absolutely. If modelers don't evolve and they don't look at these new tools and add-ins, then ultimately that could be a really big risk. So if we don't look what's happening around us, if we don't look up from our keyboards and just focus on just Excel, then we are at risk. If we just stick to Excel only with nothing else, we're in trouble. Data sets are getting bigger, problems are more complex, and it's just not good enough to just do the same thing that we've been doing over and over again. Einstein doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The definition of insanity, right? We are literally going insane if we don't think about doing things differently. Even Microsoft, the inventor of Excel, not spreadsheets, but Excel, recognizes that formulas and the way that they've been written has got problems. And so they created dynamic arrays. So we need to explore dynamic arrays in terms of how we write formulas. How many modelers have used dynamic arrays? Very few. It's not that straightforward, but we need to evolve. So I'm all about the tech around modeling, not specifically other software. It's the whole spectrum of just not using things the same way. The tech will continue to drive us and will continue to change our lives in all aspects, not just financial modeling. So if we think and sit as financial modelers, just punching away at our keyboards with our keystrokes and using fast or BPM or do whatever standard that you want to use, it doesn't matter. The fundamental thing is you've got to look up from your desk, look around you, because the world is changing and it's changing pretty quick. That's it.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Lance. Okay, last chance. Okay, so let's see who is the winner. We are going to hand over to the guys for a special announcement in a minute, and then we'll be taking a little bit of Q&A just for the time that we have left. So we are going to finish up in about 20 minutes. So do jump in with the Q&A functionality if you are on Zoom, and pop in your questions while we're waiting for the poll results to come in. And oh my goodness, it is close. It is really, really close. Okay, I've got to give it another minute. Come on. Can you guys see the result? Or is it
it's
just
properly X Factor, isn't it? We've gone all X Factor. You're going to give us a pause and everything, Danielle. Are you?
The dramatic pause is too much for me.
Dramatic pause.
Oh my gosh. So you can't see the results?
No.
No. Oh my goodness. By a whisker.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
Oh.
Lance is the winner by a hair's breadth. Well done, Lance.
Well done, Lance.
Applause.
Good.
Okay, that was amazing. Well done. Some really good arguments we had there. Some fantastic points of view. Thank you so much for that. So, who is going to make the announcement? You guys have got something to tell us, I believe. You've been working very hard together. I know you sound like you're all at odds, but you're not at all. So, Lance, you're going to show us?
Yeah, thanks, Danielle, and thanks for the win, guys. I did predict it, but it was close. It was very close. But the reality is that I think it was actually quite challenging for all of us, I think, to argue all different aspects, because we all sort of agree that there are aspects that are critical in terms of understanding how all of this thing is going to impact us, and knowing that financial modelers are even more in demand today than they've ever been is critical. But there are so many gaps. There are so many gaps in the fundamentals of how do you build a model, the fundamentals of Excel, and just the understanding. There was so much on the chatter around, understanding what tech are we talking about? That alone is, there's so much technology out there. It's almost confusing. So we came together to create a new company. That company is called Full Stack Modeler. Right? We created Full Stack Modeler because really we wanted to help people understand all of these core skills: Excel, financial modeling, and tech. I might pass on to Kenny, actually, because Kenny was a bit of a brainchild behind this one. And we've just gone along for the ride, but everyone knows I love my tech. And now I get to play with it with a few other co-founders. Kenny, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. So like Lance said, we created Full Stack Modeler together. So between the three companies, Lance's company, Giles' company, Clarity, and ourselves at Gridlines, we've created Full Stack Modeler. And it's all about understanding all of these elements, the understanding the Excel fundamentals, understanding how to build models really well, and then understanding all the technology around tech. As we looked around the market, what we realized that there's nowhere to go to give you all of that gives you all of the modeling skills that you need, but also all of the technology skills that we all now need. So we have been debating this, but I think the consensus view is, yeah, you got to know how to model, but the technology is changing really rapidly. There's new technologies all the time that are coming out and changing the way that we do our job. But we also think that as modelers, we need to understand the broader skill set, some of the softer skills like listening, like influencing, presenting, negotiating. All of these skills that go into what a modeler does are not covered. And so you end up piecing together bits. I go here for a bit of Power BI and over here for a bit of modeling. And we wanted to create something that brought all of that together. So fullstackmodeler.com is the place to go and check that out. It's a membership community and training course. And the three of us as individuals and our team member Giles, who couldn't be here today because he just had some dental emergency work done, we are, as a combined instructor group, leading all of the teaching across all of those range of skills so that you can get what we're now calling the full stack of modeling skills.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kenny. Was there anything you'd like to add to that, Myles? Or shall we move on to the Q&A?
No, just a quick shout out to Giles. So Giles was supposed to be on the debate today. I've stepped in at the last minute, which I should probably have played more on actually at the start to get myself some votes. But yeah, just a quick shout out to Giles.
You did really well.
He's had a terrible toothache. So there's a joke in there somewhere about pulling teeth and financial modelling, I think. But he was literally, as we were on this session, having his teeth drilled, bless him. So yeah, quick shout out to Giles. But yeah, really exciting opportunity and really looking forward to working with everyone. Yeah.
Great. So we had a question from Hash. What other tech tools would you suggest learning besides knowing Excel? What do you guys think? Maybe it might be a good question for Lance.
Yeah, well, I guess actually we break it into, so in full stack modeler, we actually don't break, we talk about tools, but really tools are constructs within particular verticals. So modular spreadsheet development is a construct of how do you build spreadsheets in a modular way very fast. So, things like Medano and OpenBox are examples of those. How do you bring BI into modeling? So of course, Power BI is part of that. How do you look at other tools and simulation software like At Risk or Oracle Crystal Ball? So I think, it's really, we don't try and, we tech agnostic. We're not there to push or sell or promote any particular tech. What we're trying to do is actually try and educate people as to what are the tech things that you need to think about. And this is the tech for modelers, not for forecasters. Very, very different. The important thing is actually understanding what is a technology tool that's going to help me build better models, visualize better models, like Modular. Power BI is a great visualization tool. There's a couple of these things. And then there's others. If you look at the Financial Modeling Innovation Awards, ValQ is a great one, Vision. There's a range of these. I think if you go to the Full Stack Modeler website, there's a little short video clip. If you push pause on one of them, we'll give you some examples. Those are just some of the aspects. There's going to be a lot more. And we're going to need to keep up to date, right? Tech is moving so fast. That's my role at Full Stack. I'm doing a quarterly tech update where we're going to actually go and look at all these tools as they change over time. This is not a one-time only. This is an ongoing learning community, and why we want people to be part of that journey, to really join us to learn and share the experience.
Yeah, I think it's really needed because there's just so much out there, and I think it would be great to have someone that actually curates what it is that you should spend your time actually learning. So we have a question from Roger in South Africa. In terms of the skills spectrum, what do you think about software wiping out the need for the median 50% of modelers? Does anyone have an opinion on that one?
Well, I think that's the one I picked up in my debate where I said, yeah, I think the median financial modeler needs to really think about, kind of brushing up on some of these other skills. So I think presenting, again, if you're a modeler that's stuck behind your desk and all you do is build models and you're not presenting to clients, or you're not understanding the problem, or you're not involved in the conversation or negotiating or doing anything, then I think that is a risk for you. So I think look at yourself, look at your role, look what you're doing, because if you don't look up from your keyboard, I think you'll find that very quickly someone else in another country can build a model cheaper, quicker, and probably more accurate than you.
And Lance made a good analogy about those other firms that kind of the world changed and they didn't keep up. And I think modelers need to be aware that technology is changing, and if they don't keep up, they're going to become less relevant because other people are using those tools to really great effect.
Just saw an interesting question from Ian Bennett. Yes, he says, do you think the syllabus of the FMI exams needs to change in order to better reflect the core skills of a financial modeler, given what's been said today? That's a really interesting question. And as an approved training provider for the FMI, I might try to answer that, and maybe some of you guys see if you've got some opinions as well. It's really hard to do a 4-hour exam that encapsulates all of the skills of a financial modeler. And for level 1, building a 3-way financial modeling, I think is being able to build a 3-way model is a really good place to start. I think there's a lot more to being a financial modeler than just doing that, though. But having a qualification, I think, is a great way to prove that you know what you're talking about as a financial modeler. Does anyone else have an opinion on that?
I'd agree with that. I think the first...
Go on, Lance, you go.
Sorry, just to quickly, there are levels to the FMI, and of course they're levels in the context of Excel, and they are still very valuable. And so I think if you're trying to look at developing those skills, in fact, part of Full Stack Modeler, I'm actually, because I'm an approved trainer as well, we're actually giving FMI advanced financial modeling training so they can write the exam. So we're not trying to change what the FMI are doing. We see it absolutely complementary. In fact, it's a part of the full capabilities of a financial modeler to know how to build financial models, 3-statement models from Excel, from scratch, in 4 hours, and yes, with no tech, right? It's really, really important. Sorry, Ken, you go.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing, that anything that raises standards and ability and profile in the modeling industry is really good from my perspective. So I think the FMI is great and it's done a great job of that. And that, potentially in the future, yeah, it perhaps does need to evolve to reflect the fact that there are new tools available and new skills within that. I mean, for example, just visualization. I'm continually horrified with the quality of charts and presentation materials that people put out, and that's partly a technology problem, but it's partly just an understanding of what makes a good visualization, what makes effective communication of data. So it's partly knowledge and it's partly tools, and we're banging on about full stack a bit, but that's what we're covering, both of those things. So to me, these are important parts of the modular skill set, and it would be great to see FMI evolve to encompass more of these things.
And don't forget, there is still level 3 to come. So there's level 2, which is more involved in the modelling, and then level 3 is yet to be announced. So maybe that will encapsulate some of these things that we've been talking about. So unless there are any further questions, was there anything else you guys wanted to cover to close off with? I will end the session shortly.
No, just to say thank you for hosting us. It's been great to have this. It's been great to have this discussion, and thanks to everybody for great participation.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely, same thing. Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah,
it's been great.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle.
Okay.